Oh, hello, Joey J. Ping here, checking in live. Hello, respectmyregion.com. We're back on another episode of the RMR Podcast. Today's episode is number 130. Our journey today brought to you guys by Seedless Media. They are a full-service cannabis marketing agency that powers RMR's podcast network, and they do a really great job helping retailers and brands grow their revenue. Now, this episode today is not about Seedless. It's about Rebel Spirit. And Diane here. Diane, how are you doing today? Welcome.
Hey, I'm doing great. Last day of 2024, getting ready to ring in the new year. I'm on the Oregon coast today, and it's great.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate you spending time with us here today. We've got a good set of questions for you. We're going to go through between 10 to 20 questions, anywhere in there. We're going to get to learn a little bit about your business. Most of this information I'm aware of, but today is about sharing your message and what your brand is all about to our community and to those that might be interested. And so, again, thank you for being here with us throughout the holiday season. For those of you guys watching, this is episode 130. You guys, I encourage you guys to Google Rebel Spirit Cannabis Oregon. Check them out. They're the number one pre-roll pack, I believe, right? Pre-roll packs in Oregon, which is a big deal considering how competitive the market is. Diane, tell me a little bit about the Rebel Spirit. Tell me a little bit about the brand and how you built such a strong community, such a strong, attractive package and brand experience, and wrap that all in a package for me. How did that happen?
Okay. Well, so then I've got to take our 10 years work and dial it down into 1 minute. So I could go, or
come on, you're an expert at speaking. How many times have we done this? Come on.
A few. It's true. All right. So, the spirit part comes from Uncle Mark, who's our family friend.
Yep.
And in the 1990s, he was growing marijuana in Northeast Washington near Colville. Great big bust, 1,000 plants, which was a lot back then. And he went to federal prison, was sentenced for 10 years. And a few years into that sentence, he got really sick, and lacking the proper care in prison, he died in prison. And he was young, 10 years younger than I am now. And that was just really, really sad. And so in 2015, when cannabis was getting ready to become recreationally legal in Oregon, my husband, Chris, and I decided to, we mortgaged our house, bought some property, started on the medical side. 2016, we went to the rec side. And when it came to marketing, we decided to get Mark involved, Uncle Mark involved. And so he is our Rebel Spirit. And he's just kind of for us, being a Rebel Spirit means doing what's right. Maybe if other people don't think it's right, it means going with the flow if that's what you want to do. It also means going against the flow if that's what feels good to you or is what's going to work for you and not hurt other people. So really, we're just about kind of freedom for all. We're all organic all the time, which in this industry is a little rebellious. It shouldn't be, but it is. There are a lot of organic growers in Oregon, but when I talk to people in other parts of the country, they can't conceive of being organic and doing live soil the way we do. So
there's a lot of challenges that go into that. There's a good amount of science and testing from a cannabis product standpoint that makes it hard to do organic, is my understanding. In some of these.
It's mainly expensive to be organic. Yeah. It's just, it's really, really expensive to be organic. And I'm not a soil expert or anything, but from what I get, if you put inorganic nutrients in the soil, what they do is they urge the plants to get as much as they can out of the soil. And so you get these beautiful plants and you end up with dead soil because everything's been taken out of the soil. And so next season, you've got to put even more artificial stuff in the soil, and the cycle continues until you've got completely dead soil. And so we have a live soil farm. We use all organic nutrients, and the soil itself nurtures the plants. Then we compost what's left of the plants and re-nurture the soil. And so we've got a really good living soil cycle which is not easy to achieve. It's not easy to keep going. And now live soil is all the buzz. But from what we understand, there are a lot of farmers, especially indoor growers, who will truck their live soil in, use it for one season, and then swap it out, basically kill it, right? And then bring in new live soil, which I will say is preferable to using chemical fertilizers, but it's not the same thing as having a regenerative process that you do yourself with your own worm farm and worm castings and things like that. And that takes a farm, which is what we've got.
You guys have a farm through and through, complete with
Yeah.
chickens, other animals flying around, walking around, the farm
Yeah.
dogs. You guys have some of the biggest vegetables I'd ever seen there growing. Like it was such a wonderful experience getting to go to going down into Southern Oregon and the middle of Oregon and seeing what the culture is like there. Cold, dreary, late fall, winter days, fresh after harvest croptober. You guys said 5,000 pounds came down
Yeah.
this year. What's it like harvesting 5,000 pounds? You're a former school
I
teacher.
am.
You're harvesting thousands of
No, I
pounds.
know. Well, I have to say that I'm more on the business side. And so I don't, so basically my office is above one of our dry facilities. So the smell kind of wafts up and really permeates everything. People come over to our house and say that our house smells like marijuana. And we're like, well, we don't really have pot here other than like a little private stash or whatever, but it's coming in on our clothes, and everything.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, for me as a school teacher, I guess I guess I'm old fashioned in my values, but that doesn't mean being totally against marijuana. I think that cannabis has its place in people's lives and in society, and I also drink alcohol more or less depending upon my mood or whatever. It's part of life. It's part of being. It's part of enjoying life. It's part of being healthy. And yeah, no shame, no shame. And so I guess people laugh when they hear that I was a public school teacher for 30 years, and yeah, it's like, well, I guess that is a rebel spirit. I was a pretty unconventional teacher too. So
you're probably that fun teacher that also took their job serious and wanted the kids to perform and learn and grow and improve and be good members of
yeah,
society, which there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
Of course,
I
those are the
did.
leaders. Those are the types of leaders that we want, and also the types of leaders we want in cannabis, which is building
Yeah,
community. And I think that's something that
yeah,
you and your brand does a strong job of. Is you guys operate in a couple markets, right?
yeah.
What's the other country again? I always get it confused.
Peru. We're in
Peru,
Peru.
correct.
Yeah.
So, what's it like being a cannabis brand in Oregon and also being down there in the Peru market? Because those are not, I wouldn't think that they're similar, but I'm ignorant of what it's like down there. So,
Well, we were ignorant too. Of course, I thought everybody worldwide must hate Americans, but that's not the case. That's not true. Peruvians love us, and they love the United States. And our partners in Peru for Future Farms, we met through GCNC, which is the Global Cannabis Network connection or collection. Anyway, we met through this international cannabis executive organization, and they love Rebel Spirit. They love our brand, and Peruvians love our brand. They like our iconography. They like what Rebel Spirit means. And we send our terpene profiles down to Peru for them to flavor their cartridges with award-winning strains from Rebel Spirit, and it's turning out to be super popular. Yeah, so
that's
it's
amazing.
we're very excited to be involved with them.
That's amazing. It's cool because you guys can grow your own strains, right? You can breed. You can, Chris can get a little crazy with the team, right? And be a cook in the kitchen because that's his thing, but also cooking up the genetics there in Oregon with the community, the people, your own teams, and how that works there. I think you guys have, and then reformulate the strains that are award winning. You can then turn them. You can study the COA and the terpenes and recreate that to some extent with these botanical terpenes, these plant-driven terps.
Right. So, yeah, for sure. We take
Crazy.
the COA from, so we'll win the Oregon Growers Cup with our strain, say Frosty Jesus. That goes to the lab. The terp profile is there. We send that off to the terpene company, and they duplicate that terpene profile with cannabis-derived terpenes, which are then legal for us to send just those terpenes to Peru.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
amazing.
yeah, so they really are kind of getting the essence of Rebel Spirit products right there in Peru.
Quite literally, not that is the essence.
Yeah,
Like, you know, when you think about like, yo, we're recreating something to a T scientifically, it's stamped by the brand. Like, yo, that's you guys over there to a T, because cannabis is different everywhere. If when we're talking vapes, we're able, we'll call it, to homogenize the consistency a little bit from to some extent, because distillate can truly just be 90 something percent with, you know, pretty close residual cannabinoids, also pretty low, right? We'll call it trace amounts, if you would. Like, you can get a distillate to be pretty close to identical, but
yeah,
no batch will ever be the exact same from distillate vape to flower to joint. The weed is different each unique time, and that's what makes these things great. Is it's that little bit of difference every time, or maybe that season in Oregon, right? Or
yeah.
maybe that round, or like, you know, I like Frosty Jesus 2024 a little bit more than Frosty Jesus 22. You
It's
know what I
totally
mean?
that way.
And
Yeah,
that's what makes it fun and,
yeah.
and pretty unique. And so, um, I've got a series of fun questions here, Dan, because you guys, you know, you speak on panels, you talk a lot around the country. You know, you've been in the game for a while with your team there in Oregon. So
You're freezing up a little bit there.
you've told your story countless times already. So we've
A little bit. There we go. You're back.
oh, sorry about that. There we go. There we go. Looks like we had a little bit of Wi-Fi struggle for a second here.
That's
Yeah, it's a little windy here at my house, so I have a little bit of slower Wi-Fi. Um,
okay.
you know, Diane, woman in the cannabis industry, woman in Oregon, you know, what are some of the challenges that, you know, that you've had to overcome? And if you're going to give some game to other future women business leaders, what might be some of that advice?
Wow. Okay. That's a really good question, because that is one thing, the square I need to circle, or a circle I need to square, or something between my old career and my new career. And that has to do with the way business runs versus being a teacher. And so as a teacher, I really love the idea of making my kids really wonderful citizens of the world. And I used to tell them, listen, there are two ways to succeed in the world. You can climb on top of the mountain, get your place up there, and then push everybody off to maintain your space up there. I said, or you could be somebody who's at the base of that mountain, holding people up and building and being a support for other people. There are two ways to succeed. You could be at the top of the mountain, or you could be at the bottom of the mountain. And I would just tell them, listen, kids, when you go out in the world and you make a great name for yourselves, that's my success as your teacher. That makes me proud. And so I've had quite a bit of an adjustment going into business, where it really is get to the top of the mountain and push people aside. It's
Yeah.
hard because it's about making money. And as a teacher, I was blessed to be in a business that wasn't really about making money, right? And
Yeah.
and now I am in that business, and so that's been a big adjustment. But at the same time, in the cannabis industry, we need each other. Women need each other, but all the businesses need each other. We owe so much of our success to our business partners in Oregon. We do contract manufacturing, and so we owe it to those businesses in Oregon who have us manufacture their pre-rolls. We do contract trimming. We owe it to those companies that we trim their product. We don't have a processor's license. We owe it to Northwest Kind that does our processing for us, and Rose City Confections that makes our edibles for us, and the various people who've helped us to do. We owe it to people like you who help us to get the word out there. And so what I've really tried to do is, at the same time that, here we're in business, we've got to take care of ourselves. But at the same time, I like to be mindful of that coexistence, the live soil, so to speak, of the cannabis industry, and working with each other and supporting each other and being part of that fabric.
I think that obviously, people talk a lot about community building, and there's a lot of different ways to go about it. And putting your brand and inserting it into the fabric of the community is something that's truly important. But I'd say that it's integral to a brand's longevity, is building strong relationships, both with retailers, but also just with local people that are followers on social, email subscribers, just friendly. Some people hate digital everything. Some people are rebellious against anything phone related. They just drive around, go to work, they stop at their dispensary, they stop at the liquor store, they stop at 7-Eleven, they call it a day, and they go back to their house and they live their life. And that's a wonderful life to live, But, we think about meeting these people where they're at, and it's out there in the real world. When you think about Rebel Spirit and this rebellious community, this rebellious mindset and the culture, the iconography, I always go back to the branding. It's such an American iconic brand. What do you want the people of Peru to really know and understand about your brand in terms of how it relates to the communities down there? Right, because communities are different everywhere, whether it's Peru or Portland or Eugene. They're all different, right? Everywhere's different.
Yeah.
So
Peru, I was in Peru in October for the Andean Hemp and Cannabis, and I spoke on a panel there. And I think that Peru has a ways to go. They're medically legal. They're not yet legal recreationally, and their legalization framework has been different from ours in that it's not yet legal to grow cannabis in Peru. And so it's got to be imported from Colombia. And from Colombia or Canada, they import from other places. And they just got smokables to be legal. And so even though, vapes and edibles were legal, inhalable smokables weren't legal. And on the panel, the moderator of the panel asked me to give advice on how in Peru so that the legality.
Oh, hold on. I think you're blocking your mic on your.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Are we there?
You're there. Can you say that again, though?
Hello. Okay, yeah. So the moderator asked me to give, because regulators, there were Peruvian regulators in the audience, and he asked me to, say, well, how can we do better than it's been done in the U.S. when it comes to making things legal? And I said, listen, you need to educate your people. Right now in Peru, it's very difficult for people to access their legal market because they don't want to be on a government registry as a medical patient. So that's been problematic. So they're having a rough time, competing with their illicit market, which is robust. Yeah. But also I said, listen, think of the government needs to think of cannabis as their baby, right? This is their baby. And when you've got a child in your household, you've got to nurture that child and give that child everything it needs to grow. Yes, the kid needs boundaries for sure and all of that, but they've got to be fed, they've got to be clothed, they've got to go to school, they've got to have all of this, right? And so if you just take the analogy, say, of taxes, you don't charge your kids money to live at home while they're growing, right? You cut them a break, right? So that they can get strong and become.
Or at the very least, it's discounted when they're young, $5 versus $20 for allowance, right?
Right. Until they can, so that they can grow strong and take care of you when you're old someday or whatever,
right.
And so I was urging them to not make it impossible for their industry to grow and thrive.
Yeah.
We've
seen some pretty interesting examples where Oregon allowed a pretty affordable retail entrance and brand entrance to be a license, to get a licenses there to participate in the industry. Oklahoma, same thing. Washington, capped, very limited. Arizona, even more limited. Illinois, limited. A lot of, some places had wide open. We've seen this balance, right? And flow. And then we talk about taxes. Washington, some of the highest taxes. California, some of the highest taxes. But then you got a Missouri with like a 5% or a 7% or something like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting to really think about what are some of the best routes to go for that. You want to make money, but you're not going to make money if you tax it too much at the beginning, unless you already have the demand for that already, which we look around the world. And although there's strong illicit markets, retail, which even though medical California cannabis, Oregon medical cannabis, Washington medical, and Colorado, even though those are the four examples where like medical was around for a long time and then launched, Michigan as well, Massachusetts as well, New York as well, Ohio's. There's medical markets in all these places. They didn't grow to the size that like regular world retail was really paying attention to until it started becoming adult use and just opened up.
Yeah.
And if you're going back to predating medical, you've got to make it accessible, inclusive. You've got to convince people that like, yo, you're okay, cool. You're doing this activity. Let's bring you into this market and let's figure out a way to get at this. And it's going to be taxed, but you're going to have a consumer base that's this big because we let it get open and build for a period of time. Right. And that's something to think about and consider and build a framework within and around when we're thinking about growing these new markets. Now, I want to pivot back to questions about you guys as the brand and your guys' creativity and give people help paint a picture of some of the things you guys represent. When I went there with you guys, I got this like, we're kind of country, we're kind of farming, we're family, we work hard. So then I was like, we ate dinner, we broke bread with you guys. If you were going to do a food and music festival, what types of food would be there and who would be performing, right? If it was the Rebel Spirit Festival.
All right. Well, I think that we'd have to probably have a number of different or maybe different themed days. We have a beautiful farm, and we would love to have some sort of a festival where people could come and celebrate with us. Of course, Oregon is so beautiful in the summertime. You've got to have some sort of barbecue. We'd have to have fresh vegetables that were grown right there on the farm. I would love to do, and there's a pretty good sized farm to table movement in Oregon, so I'd love to maybe invite a farm to table organization to come in to help us put it on. And then when it comes to music, of course, we would have some bluegrass, some rock, I don't know if your listeners are familiar with the Oregon Country Fair, but that's every year right near our farm, and amazing music and craft venues. Oregonians, kind of know how to do that gathering, and that's a real dream. But that takes money, and if you're going to do it legally, almost impossible to have consumption at an event like that. Is very, very expensive and difficult. I remember in the beginning in Oregon, Dope Magazine threw some great events before they joined in with High Times, and we've just not seen anything like that since. Where because again, regulations make it super difficult. But yeah, we would love to have something like that.
Now we could talk about the things that we want to change in the industry, and we could try to harp on the various things, but in states like Oregon, Washington, Colorado, even California, it's a little bit slow to change because it's been a system for what it is already. We're at the point where we're working within our means, that cards in the hands that we're dealt, and we're optimizing, getting creative from there, right? And so you guys are in a couple new, you're in Oregon there. You're one of the top brands in your category. You offer a variety of in-house genetics and strains. We've got an article coming with you guys here really soon. So those of you guys that are going to, I want to share some of the nitty gritty of their brand story for that conversation for y'all to read. But Diane, before we get you out of here, what do you guys have coming up in 2025 that you're really excited about? And that's going to be my last question for you on today's episode.
Well, honestly,
unpack that for us. What do you guys got coming up?
we're super excited about our harvest. Our 2024 harvest was amazing. As you mentioned, we got 5,000 pounds, and it is tasty. It is tasty. It is beautiful. And our salespeople are out. We're selling more flour than we've sold in years. You know, we're really known as a pre-roll brand, but this year we've got enough really good product that we're selling lots of flour.
Nice.
And, you know, I think that in Oregon, where we've got such competition going on, it can sometimes be a struggle. But in 2025, we're really just looking forward to bringing that amazing 2024 harvest to our customers.
That's amazing.
I'm
really happy for you guys. Again, you know, it was really an honor to be able to come down there and learn about you guys and experience the culture and to check out the facility and meet some of the team. We did you guys showed us the pre-roller machine, which was really cool to see that working and in action there. Everybody, we've got a great tour video coming up where Diane walked us around the farm and showed us every nook and cranny all over the place. And when I tell you it's a farm, guys. And it was such a great episode and really reflects, you know, a post-harvest farm situation for Oregon literally right after Croptober just happened.
Yeah.
And so, Diane, I really appreciate you being a guest, supporting Respect My Region, and, you know, putting on for women and putting on for Oregon and cannabis. And you are an international cannabis company doing it in today's world. And so big respect to everything that you guys are doing and with the family and everything.
Well, and respect to you for caring about people like us and for getting the word out about us. We're pretty much have our noses to the grindstone. It can be really difficult to get the word out about what we're doing and about being live soil and being all organic and wanting to have the community involved and wanting to be a brand that people know and trust and can afford and all of the above. And so we really appreciate your part of that fabric, you know, that helps bring it all together.
I appreciate you, Diane. Thank you for switching away from teaching and helping people do this kind of stuff, man. I'm sure you had great impact for 30 years on countless generations, and now we're doing the same thing in cannabis. And so I appreciate you. It was a pleasure to chat with you today. For those of you guys watching, today was episode 130 of the RMR Podcast. My name is Joey J. Ping. This is Diane Downey. And they are Rebel Spirit. Make sure you guys tap in, support them. If you go to Oregon, they're award winning. If you go to Peru, ask about them, talk about medical cannabis, ask questions, try to get involved, and do what you can to support if you can. Everybody, thank you again. Our episode today was brought to you guys by Seedless Media. Again, a full-service cannabis marketing agency. Be sure to tap in at seedless.media if you have any questions. We will see you on the next episode. Diane, thank you again. Happy New Year's. Raider Nation in the house, and we'll see you all next time.
All right.